Texas, lawmakers are praising a federal appeals court decision to uphold a new law targeting sanctuary cities there. Following yesterday's ruling, Texas Governor Greg Abbott took to Twitter. He wrote this: breaking, Texas ban on sanctuary city policies upheld by federal court of appeals. Allegations of discrimination were rejected. Law is in effect. That from Greg Abbott. The ruling allows police officers to ask people for their immigration status during routine stops and threatens officials with jail time if they do not cooperate with ICE officials. Joining me right now to talk more about it is House Financial Services Committee member, Texas Congressman Roger Williams. Congressman, good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Maria.
Good move here. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, you know, we, Texas and, of course, America, we're a land of laws. And when you disobey the federal government on the sanctuary city issue, it's wrong. And I'm glad the courts, I feel like Governor Abbott, that we're glad that the courts upheld it to where we can continue to abide by the law in Texas.
What about California? I mean, should the president be withholding federally because they refuse to go along with federal law?
Well, I think so. I mean, why should they get federal funding if they're going to break the law? And
right.
I think he's on the right path to do that, and we'll just see what happens.
Now, acting ICE Director Thomas Homan is firing back at House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi after she called the feds' targeting of illegal immigrants cowardly. Listen to this, sir.
You're talking about law enforcement officers. These are men and women that put their lives on the line for this country every day. They strap a gun to their hip and leave the safety and security of their homes to defend this nation. So how dare you call them cowardly?
She called them cowards. It's incredible. I mean, this after ICE agents arrested nearly 300 illegal immigrants in California. Congressman, your reaction?
Well, our law enforcement in our states and our country are to be commended. They put their life on the line, as we know, every single day. Certainly not cowards. And I'm always amazed at the people that have an issue with law enforcement, is that they'll be the first one that they need when they have a problem. So I think she was totally wrong, and they're not cowards. They're heroes and they're patriots.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. Let me ask you this, switching gears here. The president is going to be touting the sweeping GOP tax overhaul at a Boeing plant in St. Louis, Missouri today. Your expectations for today, sir, and tell us what the impact has been as a result of this tax cut plan.
Well, I think he's on the right track. It's the right message. You know, I'm in the automobile business on Main Street America. I see it every single day. We're spending, you know, people are spending money, they're buying, they're consuming. We're seeing unemployment going down. So this tax reform has worked fantastically. We're going to see even greater dividends as we move forward. People's confidence is very good. And the main thing is, look, at America's a consumption-driven nation. Now they have something to consume with, and it's their money and not the federal government's money.
Are you expecting to do a phase two? The president just the other day talked to Kevin Brady at House Ways and Means and said, oh, are we going to do phase two here? Is there another part of this tax cut plan to come?
Well, I think there's some other things we could do. I'd like to see dividends go back down to 15% in capital gains. I mean, there's some things like that we can do to put more cash in the system and move more people forward. So there are some things we can do, and I think we need to continue to fine-tune it and make it even better, not only for the federal government, for Main Street.
So tell me about that. What are you expecting to do in terms of dividends?
Well, I think we should bring dividends back down to 15%, and I think it will allow people to begin to trade again, and it will put more cash in the economy. I'm afraid if dividends and get too high and capital gains, that you almost could have a bartering nation. I think at 23% is too high. I'd like to see it back down to 15. That's just one thing that I think we could do. I think we also could cut payroll taxes in half.
Cut payroll taxes in half. And are you expecting to make the individual cuts permanent?
I think we have to make them permanent. I think people have to be able to plan. People have to know what's ahead.
Right.
And when you're talking about tax cuts and more cash flow, being permanent is better than just trying to guess when's this going to end or what is it going to look like in a year or two.
What are you expecting in terms of DoddFrank? We've been talking about the potential for tweaks there. What do you want to see?
Well, of course, DoddFrank has been really tough legislation on Main Street America and community banks. We sent from the House, we sent the Choice Act over to the Senate. Now they are responding here in the next couple of days with what they see the best thing to do. I'm anxious to see what they come up with. I want to find a way to vote for the Senate bill. I'm glad to see the $250 billion banks and less are going to be out of DoddFrank. That's going to open up a whole new world for Main Street America. People are going to be able to borrow money now for things that they want to do, from home improvements forward, and it's certainly on the right track.
All right, so then we should get the clarity on that from the Senate, what, in the next couple of weeks?
I think we should have it in a couple of days.
Okay.
We'll see what's happened, but we're ready to move forward on it.
Yeah, let me ask you about the tariff plan out of this White House. There's a lot of debate about the aluminum and steel tariffs. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I've never been for tariffs. I think the biggest thing we can do is have tax cuts and tax reform and have the most competitive tax rates in the world and have businesses come over here, businesses stay over here, and let America drive the economy with lower tax rates. I think, too, you have to be very careful when you're talking about tariffs. You're talking about raising the cost of goods sold, and all of a sudden people are paying more for goods sold. Vendors are not making more. They're just having more in sales dollars, and all of a sudden the tax cuts we gave people are spending on government regulations, and I don't think that's good.
Well, which is why the president came up with this document that shows a lot more flexibility, right? Do you think that at some point we will see tariffs against China? Is that coming in the coming weeks, given the fact that China is trying to transfer our technology to China by acquiring and being involved in venture capital deals?
Yeah, I think, when we start talking about tariffs, I think if we fine-tune it to say China, I think a lot of people would be supportive of that, but not to take it out to Main Street and let the goods that people buy every single day go up. And again, like I say, have their tax cuts going for excess prices when it wasn't designed for that. So focus on China and let's make them get competitive with us.
We are expecting, Congressman, that the president will name Larry Kudlow to the new NEC job, Gary Cohn's former job. Would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, I know Larry, and Larry thinks a lot of the ways a lot of us do. He believes in less government. He believes in the power of Main Street. He believes in the power of consumption. So I think that he'd do a very good job if he's chosen. Yeah, okay. And let me switch gears to school safety while we have you. Thousands of students across the country will walk out of class today. The walkout will begin in the next few hours and last for 17 minutes to honor those killed in last month's Parkland school shooting. You've recently introduced a bill that would allow the Secretary of Education to create a grant program for schools looking for additional funding to protect students and teachers. Congressman, what do you want to see? Tell us about the legislation and what should these schools be doing with that funding? Well, I think the legislation is needed. I have a concern that we continue to debate on what's right and wrong with guns and Second Amendment and NRA, that we also forget to secure our schools. And what my bill does was allow the Secretary of Education, with her $63 billion budget, to give grants to schools that request certain things. With it could be bulletproof glass, it could be more guards, it could be all kinds of things, metal doors to secure their schools. It goes right to the schools, and every school would be different, but it would allow the Department of Education to use that $63 billion to help secure our schools. We need to do that now and then have the debate on what's right and wrong on Second Amendment, NRA, et cetera. I think you make a great point. Congressman, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks so much. Thank you, Maria. Roger.